Hey guys, welcome back to the Mythic Tavern, and today I wanted to discuss why the Delves are going to be the next big thing. Not only according to Blizzard, but also according to me, because I am an endgame player. I like my Mythic Plus, I like farming gear for raiding, and all that good stuff, and Delves happen to be a brand new activity, or as Blizzard would like to say it, a brand new pillar, similar to how Mythic Plus was a brand new pillar in Legion or World of Warcraft. Now we have Delves in the World Within as a new endgame pillar, meaning that is something that you do to, get gear and play the game, and a new way to have gameplay and things like that in order to progress your character. So why do I believe that Delves are such a big deal? Well, there's quite a few reasons. First of all, they are seasonal, just like Mythic Pluses and raiding is. Every season we have new raids, every season we have a new dungeon rotation, new items to get, new item level to get, all that good stuff. And of course, Delves are a completely brand new system, and they are also seasonal. But this time, you have a companion with them as well that changes every season. For the very first season of War Within, we are going to have Brian Bronzebeard. Now, some of you may already know all this stuff from BlizzCon, and that's fine. This is not a recap for BlizzCon, even though for some people it might be, in case you haven't seen BlizzCon or whatever. But this is more about my opinion and what I think of Delves and why do I believe that they're going to be pretty exciting. So, as I said, every season you have a brand new companion, and you can gear this companion out and actually make it a lot more interesting, as opposed to something like we had in Garrisons, where you just had quote-unquote fake followers that you would send out on missions that didn't really have gear, but you would just put weird little items on them that would give them higher increase in success of missions. It was kind of a mobile bullshit thing that they had back in Warlords that they've done throughout, multiple expansions and whatnot, and it was kind of doo-doo. We all know how the mission table is. This is not a mission table companion. This is a companion that is actually with you, that has a narrative, and that is actually interesting. And if you ask me, Bran Bronzebeard is a pretty cool character. I always liked him, especially from the Ulduar days. So this is pretty exciting. You obviously go in, have a little story with him, and all this narrative stuff, and you get to discover cool things. And you get to gear him out. So you can give him, make him a little bit more tanky, more survivable, or you can give him a little bit more DPS gear and whatnot. Or maybe, I don't know if he can heal or how that's gonna work, but basically what Blizzard said is you can kind of gear him out if, to your liking and how you want them to act for you. If you want them to be more tanking mobs for you, or doing some damage alongside you, or maybe you're the tank and you want them to do damage, or whatever it is, it might be. Because the reason is, Delves are role agnostic, meaning that you can go in as a solo tank and still do it. You can go in as a solo healer and still do it. You can go in as a solo DPS and still do it. There's no your trifecta of healer, tank, and DPS. This is not a dungeon run. This is not a mini dungeon either. It is an adventure that is outside the world. It is instanced, but it is completely seamless. So when you enter a delve, you do not see any loading screens. It just begins, which is really cool. That has been officially confirmed by Blizzard. That is not an opinion. That is an actual factual thing that you guys can find out for yourself if you haven't watched the BlizzCon panel. But regardless, so because of that, you can have up to 1 player, 2 players, 3 players, 4 players, or 5 players. It doesn't matter how many players you go with. It doesn't matter if they're all DPS. It doesn't matter if they're all healers, or it doesn't matter if they're all tanks. You can go in and have fun with you by yourself or with your friends. And of course, Brian Bronzebeard is always going to be alongside you. So you can, tune him how you want him to be for your liking, to fit your playstyle, to fit the kind of a build that you're going for, and get him loot as well. So, what kind of rewards can you get from Delves? Why is it so important? Well, Delves will reward you at their max difficulty, according to Blizzard, a heroic raid level gear. So, not mythic raid, gear, but heroic raid gear instead, not mythic raid gear. That is probably more for Mythic Plus. However, you can still use this avenue. I mean, heroic raid gear is, in my opinion, pretty good. It's still worthwhile for, if you're a raiding guild, it's 100% worthwhile doing Delves, and they're probably going to make you do it because, well, it's just another way to get gear, and it doesn't require a full group. So it's probably going to be easier to do Mythic Plus now, because you can get heroic raid gear from delves by yourself, or with a friend, or 3 friends, or 4 friends, or whatever. So that's pretty exciting. And obviously they want to limit to that because, you know, if you're going to be able to get mythic rate gear, that's going to be probably a little bit too easy. I don't know how they work in terms of like grinding, but I'm assuming you can do as many as you want per day. I don't believe there's a limit. It's just another pillar. You know, if you want to run Mythic Plus forever, as many as hours there are in a day, you know, you're going to be able to do as many delves as you can in a day or whatnot. So, you know, that's a pretty big deal if you ask me, and that's definitely going to change the meta of the game. You know, you can go do delves, get geared out in heroic gear or whatever gear, and then go into Mythic Plus and start doing your low 20s to mid 20s to go get your Mythic Vault. Or whatever, your Mythic upgrade gear. I don't know how, if the tuning is going to be the same as it is in Dragonflight in terms of, you know, getting gear from 20 plus and whatnot, or if they're changing anything because they're adding delves. So that's going to be a little bit interesting to see. Because obviously, you know, doing delves would be the most optimal thing to get the gear easier way, and then going into Mythic Plus to get the higher end gear, and then go into Raid and, you know, do all that good stuff. So yes, Send delves are also going to be part of Vault. That's another big deal. PvP is no longer part of Vault. Instead, what they're doing for PvP is you just get your gear that you want. You're gonna get a lot more conquests than previously, and you can get whatever pieces you wish instead of hoping for, you know, Vault to give you the right PvP gear, because RNG and PvP gear, as Blizzard said at BlizzCon, is not a very good idea, and they've learned their lesson. So they're getting rid of PvP gear from Vaults completely. Instead, it's gonna be Delves, Mythic Plus, and Raid, which, in my opinion, I think is the right way to do it, considering now that for PvP you will get your conquest, a lot more of it, and you can also target the gear pieces that you want as well, instead of, you know, relying on RNG from the Vault for PvP. Anyway, this is not a PvP video, but I just wanted to throw that in there so you guys know what's going on with that. So, and that is happening thanks to the delves, so that is also a pretty big deal for PvP players and whatnot, and, you know, for PvE as well. Yeah, that's pretty exciting stuff. So how do delves actually work? Well, you can go into different zones, and every zone has, you know, their own little delve, and you might stumble upon a tomb or, you know, something like that, and you might go inside, and when you go inside, that is technically you entering an instanced area, but it is, again, as I said, completely seamless. There's no loading, you know, like where in Mythic Plus you have to go into a dungeon with your group, and then you go into the loading screen, and then you have to put the key in, and then there's another loading screen, and then there's 10 seconds of waiting for the countdown to begin for the Mythic Plus run, and then you go. This is not like that. You go in there, there's no loading screens, there's no weird bubbles, it just begins as you naturally progress and explore the outside world zones of World of Warcraft War Within, which is pretty exciting. There are a total of 12 delves that you can do right off the bat, and a 13th one that is secret that you have to kind of discover on how to find and whatnot, and Blizzard is kind of keeping that tight-lipped. So that's pretty cool. I like the whole discoverability thing, kind of like, you know, exploration and whatnot. So think of this as like a Zelda inspired with a lot of Indiana Jones, I guess, and whatnot. So you go into these delves and you might get tasked with different things like killing, you know, lieutenants, or fighting a boss somewhere at the end, or something like that, you know, killing a few mobs, or solving a puzzle. They're not just like mini dungeons, they are a lot more creative and a lot more interesting, and there's a lot of random things that could happen in them. Blizzard unfortunately did not show any kind of videos or actual examples of how they play or anything like that. They just kind of explained it. So we actually have to see them in action for me to actually speak about it more in depth, because that's a little bit difficult to, you know, say what it's going to be like without seeing it. Is kind of that hard, as you can imagine. But that is what they're saying, and, you know, based on that, that is pretty exciting. My other exciting thing about it is, for me, is the fact that you're gonna get a lot of cool cosmetics, like candles for hats, for example. So now you can be a kobold in World of Warcraft, a dwarf with a candle on top of your head, and you can go fight in PvP and tell people that they're not gonna take your candle. I think that's pretty cool. And another cool thing is there's going to be seasonal rewards as well, just like Mythic Plus has their own seasonal rewards. And you can actually get really cool special mounts that are customizable, as you guys can see here on the screen. In this example, as you can see here, you can get different parts for this vehicle-looking thing. That is really dope. They're kind of taking the concept of the manuscripts or the dragons from Dragonflight and now applying it to like completely different type of mounts, like this vehicle that you see on the screen. I think that's really amazing. A lot more cool stuff to get for mount collectors such as myself, and of course I'm sure there's going to probably be some sort of pets as well. And at the end, you also get into a room full of treasure, and you can open up these treasures, and you get loot and whatnot. And there's also gonna be a weekly chest. I think they're called resplendent chests, and you need to have a special key to get it, or keys. I'm not sure exactly how it works. But you can only do this once a week because they don't want you to, easily farm it and whatnot. And it's gonna contain basically like, I don't know if they said it's gonna contain a cosmetic or a piece of loot, but it's like the ultimate reward that's weekly based. And I'm assuming because it's weekly based, it's probably gonna be like, that big reward at the end for that week before you can do it again. I think it's a mix of cosmetics and actual gear, but I'm not 100% sure on that, so I don't want to tell you exactly what it is and then look like a liar. So, but I know there's a weekly thing in the Delves, and you can only get them from those resplendent chests, so that's definitely something to keep an eye on. So yeah, Delves, in my opinion, sound pretty exciting. When Mythic Plus came out for, what was it, Legion, people didn't really know what to expect, and I mean, now look at Mythic Plus today, it has evolved in so many ways, and I think it's really good now, and I really like it. It's definitely addicting, and there are people who play Mythic Plus, or who play World of Warcraft solely for Mythic Plus and don't even raid, because it's just an enjoyable type of content. You have people like Dratnos and Tuttles, for example, who solely run YouTube channels talking about Mythic Plus every season, and some of them, yeah, I mean, Dratnos raids, but like Tuttles doesn't raid, and he likes to do Mythic Plus, and he, a lot of those people get those really high, crazy keys. It's a lot of cool stuff. So I enjoy Mythic Plus as well, because it's the content that I can rely on doing myself as a tank. Because as a tank, you can get into groups really easy. But now, if my friends are not on, or if I don't feel like plugging Mythic Plus, I can go do Delves and still get heroic loot gear and not feel like crap. And then after I get my heroic loot gear, I can go into Mythic Plus and hopefully get some Mythic raid gear. So that's going to be pretty fun. You're not forced to do it. There's no actual progression like tied to it that's like legendary or something like that from Torghast. Another reason why I think it's a big deal is that, why Delves are a big deal is because Blizzard has said they've learned from scenarios, island expeditions, and Torghasts, and they've learned not to repeat certain mistakes, and there were a lot of mistakes in all of those 3 game systems. And the fact that they're putting a lot into it, and making it an actual endgame system that's going to be going past War Within, because it's becoming part of the World of Warcraft pillar, meaning that future expansions are going to have Delves forever, and it's an evergreen system. That is a pretty big deal. This is like a new thing for World of Warcraft gameplay and game-wise. That is very exciting. So for those reasons that I've just listed, this is why I think Delves are a really big deal, and Blizzard really need to tie this down as much as possible, polish it as much as possible, and make it as replayable as possible, and make it as fun as possible. And, granted that this is going to be the first time going into them, there's probably going to be a few weird bugs and things that might not work, or people might not like, but I'm sure they'll fix it over time, because it's a little bit hard to fix things when you haven't released it to the public in terms of, like, the fun aspect. So, they'll have to tune it as people play and give them feedback, because it's not possible to make it perfect when you haven't released it to the general public yet. So it's going to take some time, but I think they're going to have a really good foundation from the sound of it. So yeah, pretty cool stuff. That is why you should be excited for Delves. That is why I believe Delves are such a big deal, and it's definitely something to look forward to. Let me know what you guys think about Delves, if you're excited for them or not so excited, if you think they're a waste of time or not. But yeah, I will be seeing you on Azeroth, and peace out and have a good one.